Hey, today I sat down with Eric Ninaltowski. He's the creator of Shadow Sentry, a book currently being crowdfunded on Indiegogo. We're going to sit down with him. We're going to talk about the project, a little bit about comics. Let's go. Today we have Eric Ninaltowski. Did I get it right?
Close enough, yeah.
All right, okay. He is I did some research. He's a 12-year vet. Is that correct?
Yeah.
In the comic industry? 12 years in the comic industry. This guy's been around the block. He's got an exciting new comic out there on Indiegogo called Shadow Sentry. In looking at it, it immediately caught my eye. I said, why is this just not exploding? And I understand why, because when you're just getting started, it's hard to get a lot of eyes. So I'm hoping to help him out with that. So let's learn a few things about his exciting project. Eric, how you doing today?
Doing awesome. Good to be with you, Mike.
I love your studio. It looks awesome.
Thank you.
Is that where you do all the magic happens right there?
That's it. Yeah.
Would you consider yourself an artist over a writer, or a little bit of both?
Definitely an artist over a writer.
Okay.
Although I'd say like an artist creator, because I love creating. I love the creating process, but writing takes me a little more time.
So let's start with your pitch. You and I meet in a coffee shop, and I just happened to tell you that I like comics, and you said, "Hey, I just got one out there right now. Tell me about it. Tell everybody why they need to buy your comic."
It's an X-Men meets the Matrix superhero team book with a supernatural twist. So that's my elevator pitch. If I only had 2 seconds, if I have a few minutes, it's where, superheroes, they're not mutants. They're not born with powers. I wanted to kind of create a different way of creating a superhero. So basically these people have near-death experiences and they die. And then when they come back to our world, they have these supernatural powers with them. And so you have their Hellborn and your Highborn. And basically there's this new war going on where Hell has infiltrated our world, and they're trying to wreak havoc here on Earth. Because I love superheroes, I wanted to put it in a superhero mold and have these two groups going at it, kind of like in a very X-Men kind of way.
Tell me about some of your influences for this project.
Definitely X-Men was a big one. When I first got into comics, X-Men was like the first book I saw. Wolverine obviously was like an immediate attraction, and he'd probably be the one I doodle most, as a kid. So yeah, just growing up with the X-Men, then you have the X-Force, X-Factor. I loved all those books. Soon after that was the 90s boom, and you had Image Comics, and you had all these awesome creators doing their creator-owned books. So, I got into Wildcats, Cyberforce, Youngblood, all those. Jim Lee was definitely my biggest influence, just because I loved his dynamic style. It was just so eye-catching and poppy. So he's the one that I've watched the most, and I buy his books the most, just because I love his style. I love how he's not a one-trick pony. He'll have different panels with, great use of black and white. A really, really awesome artist. So
I totally understand what you're talking about. I love his artwork. Let's get down to it. We got to talk a little bit of geek here, okay?
Sure.
Tell me about your top 3 favorite superheroes.
Top 3. So Grifter is definitely one of my top favorites. I loved his look. It was just so new, like so different, than anything I'd seen. But I love the mask. I love guys with guns and stuff, and like the gear. So his design was really awesome. Just a cool character. So he would be my first choice. Definitely Wolverine, only because, it's just got that nostalgia, and just, you can't, the claws, the healing factor. I mean, that's awesome. And, he just gets so bloody fighting. It's cool to watch him in the books. And then the third, maybe the Darkness. He was a really cool, interesting character, but, having this dark power and summoning these. I love the way Mark Silvestri draws these little goblins. So, you have this cool character with his really unique look, and then just these goblins' faces popping out of everywhere. And, he can do anything he wants, really, with these guys. So I'll go Darkness. I think that's cool.
So when I was little, I played D&D, so I kind of always refer characters back to some kind of character alignment. So it sounds like you kind of like that chaotic good, chaotic neutral kind of character. Is that?
Yeah.
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 Seems like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's
Yeah.
really, really cool.
And so the books with like the, you have the dark and the light and like that kind of hellish, power. And then you had the Angelus, type characters in the darkness books. And, so I love angels, that demon kind of aspect as well.
Well, it sounds like it definitely had an influence on you. I mean, it sounds like from what you made your book to be that, some of these character influences and some of what you like had an impression upon you to make what looks like a fantastic book. I hate to keep people waiting for too long. Maybe we should share your screen. You can guide us through your campaign a little bit. Does that sound good? Okay.
Yeah. Give me 1 second.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Awesome.
Great.
So the Shadow Sentry, Book 1, Into the Eternal. My quick little log line is: hell has entered our realm through death's door, and heaven has a new breed of heroes. So,
well, can I compliment you first on your title? I love the way that you did the letters. You got the good and the bad on both sides. It looks fantastic.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I did all my own, the logo and everything for this campaign. So
wow.
Yeah.
You did that all on your own?
Yeah.
I like the depth of the letters. It's kind of that like a dimensional effect, like a 3D effect to the letters.
Cool. Yeah, I do a lot of messing around, honestly. Sometimes things are just mistakes that I like. And I think with this one, I did like a few different layers and just kind of shifted them. And that's kind of like what you see. And then I messed with when you do the like embeveling and embossing, you could do different effects for that. And so I just found one that worked, and that's pretty much it.
So tell me real quick, what does Into the Eternal mean?
So when I refer to like people having near-death experiences, how I explain it is like when they cross over onto the other side, they're going into the eternal. So they're kind of crossing into, the realm beyond our own, this invisible world where there's, demons and angels that are, really there, but we just can't see them. So they're crossing into that realm, into the eternal. And then they come back and they bring these powers with them. Down here, I kind of go a little bit more into it. As I said, it's an X-Men meets the Matrix superhero book. It says, dive into the midst of a war of biblical proportions, the highborn soldiers of heaven fighting to keep the world safe from a new breed of evil, the hellborn agents of darkness bent on plunging the world into eternal oblivion. But what happens when they're faced with a crossbreed hybrid of hellborn and highborn? Will he be the one to save the world, or will he lead the war against it? And that's kind of alluding to the main character, Jason, who you see on the first cover here over on the left. He's the son of a highborn and a hellborn. And so he has these abilities from both sides. Kind of in the first story arc, we're basically following his journey, and both the highborn and hellborn are after him to get them on their side, so that way they could utilize his power. And
he's the guy with the sword, right?
Actually, the two swords, those are from the angels. The kid in the middle, he's kind of just reaching up.
Okay. I was looking over on the right. Sorry about that.
No worries. So that's Jason. He's actually, if you read the first few pages that I have up on the campaign, he's the baby that they're running with in the beginning there. So that kind of tells the backstory, who the child is and who his mom and dad are.
Well, I looked because I'm an art snob, so I want to know what I'm getting into, because usually covers can be a little bit deceptive. So you want to see what you're getting inside. So I'm really glad that you did that. I certainly welcome anybody to look at it. I will be honest with you. I didn't read any because I didn't want to spoil the book. So
no problem. Hey, that's smart.
But your art is tight. Your art is really tight.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And hopefully
it reminds me a little bit of I don't know if you remember this, The Adventures of Max Faraday.
Yeah. Yep.
Divine Right, Jim Lee.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yep. And Jim Lee did a lot of had little things in his books, even Wildcats, where he had like the Daemonites and just kind of like these heaven hell references, or things like the Behemoth was the ship that Hellespont was on. So like a lot of cool like biblical references almost.
I like the whole good evil one side versus the other. So I think that, and I think a lot of people do. I think in the Matrix, you mentioned the Matrix earlier. You've got the free people versus the system kind of deal. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to go with something that that I enjoy, but also that can just, it's hard to exhaust, different things like that. You can play with that, for years, and just look at Spawn. So I think it's going to be good. It's going to enable me to keep going with these books and make an ongoing series. So, and then obviously, if people are fans of Jim Lee, they'll recognize this page. Hopefully, this is from Uncanny X-Men 171, where you had Richter and Boom Boom running down the alleyway.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I did a little tribute page there.
Yeah, your action shots, like that was one of the things that caught me up to the top of that page right there. The guy with the blue and the red arm.
One of the things I attribute to reading comics as a kid. Like when you read good comics, like Jim Lee and gosh, even like Sal Buscema, their layouts are awesome. And so I remember as a kid drawing stuff, and my art teacher would be like, "Wow, this is like great composition." And I just remember thinking like, it's because I read comics, man. Because I'm looking at it all day long. I'm looking at all these panels and just all the positioning, and you may not know you're picking it up, but you're just you're absorbing it. But like you said, I mean, not every artist does it 100%, but I try.
So is this your first solo book?
Solo book, yes. Yep. So this is all me. I'm doing the writing, I'm doing the inking, penciling, inking. Right now I'm just doing this.
Great.
I'm actually this week I'm going to focus on a commission that I received. But that's just to, kind of supplement my income that I'm missing from all the conventions that have been canceled.
Okay, so I'm going to say this for the audience. He's not going to say this, audience, but that means that his heart and soul is going into this. So please support this book.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah. So this is my day job. So right now, not a lot has changed for us during this whole quarantine thing. I typically would work from home anyway, but my wife, we just had a baby at the end of March, so she's home on maternity leave still, and so it's been good in a way. We can focus on family, and then also I could focus on the book. So it's been kind of nice because when she's out of the house, I'm basically playing daddy, and I can't work as much as I'd like. So.
Understandable.
Yeah. So this last page that's colored, that's kind of like the end of the prologue, if you will, and that's kind of the backstory, and then you kind of it's more of the other characters. This is the main villain, Martian, and so you find out a little bit about him. But yeah, I'm not big on I hate spoilers myself, so I'm really careful with what I put in the campaign and what images I do show. So.
Boy, no kidding. Having a campaign myself, boy, there's some really exciting stuff that I think would be nice hooks to get people involved in the story or excited about it. But you got to be very careful about what you share because you don't want to blow something that could be a big reveal or
exactly.
something. Yeah, so I totally get it.
Mm-hmm. I want people to see stuff, get hooked, but then when they read the book, it's like, oh wow, I haven't seen that before. Oh wow, I have not seen that. And because I do live streams on YouTube. And sometimes I'm inking pages, but sometimes I'm like, guys, sorry, you're not going to see this page because, for whatever reason, there's like a new character or, just shots that I don't want them to see. So I try to make it so when they get the book, it's like fresh and new and they haven't seen everything yet,
Yeah.
This is the Matthew Weldon cover. Came out really good. My colorist is Carbon Graphics on all my covers. Does a phenomenal job. This is the original. And not sure if people can tell, but we actually adjusted Brazen's head. It's more centered here, whereas down here Matthew kind of had it crooked a little bit, so we adjusted that and kind of makes the whole image a little more centered.
No, it looks good the way that you got it there. So
yep. Then we have the Kevin Sharp variant B cover. Kevin does some awesome heroic muscly guys, and he also actually is having his campaign right now. It's Dragon Guard. Very cool. He's doing like 80s inspired, like 80s cartoons inspired kind of stuff, like Conan the Barbarian looking guy with sorcery and dragons. Looks really cool.
I will check that out. Well,
yeah.
Hopefully the audience will too.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is the villain's variant. So we have Vengeant there in the back. He's the big dude. His power is to absorb any rage or anger that you fight him with. And he just feeds off of it and basically, brings it right back to you. And, not mimics, but just, it makes him harder to defeat, because it's like every ounce of, strength you're mustering, he's just kind of throwing it right back in your face. And then you have Hopscotch, the chick there. She creates portals and just, jumps from here and there.
That's a good name.
This is Bloodbane down the bottom here. He has this dark blood that you'll find out how he gets in the story, and just able to create, weapons, armor, different stuff all over his body using the blood.
Wow.
So currently right now I'm in demand. So I'll be in demand probably for a few months.
And how much of the project is done?
I just finished page 19. So not quite halfway there, but almost.
All right.
And then last but not least, we have the Mike S. Miller cover, and he did the Highborn variant, I guess you can call it. And his positioning of Deke up here at the top is a little too high, so I had to figure out something. So rather than just cover up the title, since it's a new book, I wanted to have the title up there still. So
I really like how you did that. So Mike Miller?
I do, yes. Yep. So Mike actually gave me my first shot in comics when I first moved to California. My wife is from California, so I moved out here from New Jersey to be married. And literally, maybe a year or two later, I found this small publishing company in La Mesa, like right down the street from where we're living. And they were just starting Alias Comics. And I met Mike and another gentleman named Brett Berner. And so he, obviously when I moved out here to California, I'm like, this is it. This is where I'm going to start my comic career, because, Wildstorm was here. You had the San Diego Comic-Con. So I was all excited and hyped. And I came in, I showed Mike my portfolio. He's not a huge fan of Jim Lee and Jim Lee's structure and stuff. So he's like, I can help you out, kid. So, he tried to change my art a little bit to get me a little better with my structure, which he did. But so that kind of began our relationship, and that was like 2006, 2007. And then I got my first gig working on a book called Hand of the Morning Star. So yeah, from that point on, I think pretty much every book or comic I've worked on, Mike somehow had a hand in it. Either telling these guys, oh yeah, Eric's really good, give him some work. So got to say thanks, to Mike for just help me along my way. He's been my mentor as far as art goes.
Well, I think it's fantastic for anybody to help anybody out, especially somebody that's trying to get started. So that, right. You certainly have to appreciate that. What do you say to some people that are maybe cautious about backing you because you have a relationship with Mike Miller?
I would say, I totally understand, if you say, hey, I don't want to back because you have a Mike Miller cover. I get it. I know tensions run high when Mike is brought up, but I would just say, hey, like, please give me a shot, check out my work and base your opinion on my work and not Mike's. You don't have to get Mike's cover. It is an option, but you don't have to get it. And like I said, me and Mike, we go way back. So, I know things have happened with Comicsgate and everything, and I get it. But at the same time, we've been friends for a long time, way before this all happened. So yeah, I would just say, judge me based on me and not, because I know Mike, if that makes sense.
I do. I totally understand it. In fact, if something comes along and it's great, looks great, and it looks to be my speed, probably going to give it a chance. If you like a project back, one person is not somebody else. We're all individuals. We all make our own choices, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm still Comicsgate. I think Comicsgate is a great, it's what was needed, in the industry for years and years. I remember being at conventions and just, myself feeling disenfranchised with the big two. And then you have all these customers coming up to you and they're just like, yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm not even into it anymore. And, so all these people are feeling the same way you are. And it's like, yeah, I wish there was like an alternative, and then here comes Comicsgate and it's like, oh my gosh, this is what we've been waiting for, and Mike was the one that brought me into Comicsgate. I found out about Comicsgate through him. And, I made the choice. I'm like, hey, I'd forego a gig with Marvel or DC for the opportunity to work with people who are like-minded, who want to just publish great comics And, and I want to do my own comics. I don't want to have Shadow Sentry be, torn apart and like, oh, you can't do that. Oh, that's too biblical. We don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to be policed by the PC police. I want to do my own work. I want to do my own comic. And I think that's what Comicsgate is, giving fans what they want, not all this PC junk, just making great content again.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. I definitely encourage everybody to go check this out on Indiegogo. It's Shadow Sentry. Are you planning to come out with any merch or anything like that?
Yeah, so before the campaign ends, I do want to do t-shirts. If they feel like they want to wear a shirt of it, have that option. I'm going to do trading card tier from some artists that do drawn and quartered. We did a Shadow Sentry drawn and quartered, and so there's artists like Elliot Fernandez, Matthew Weldon, Matt Cawson, and Kevin Sharp did one as well. So I'd like to do just a tier if anybody wants to get these special. It'll be limited, and they can get their hands on these trading cards just for this campaign.
That sounds great. So tell us a little bit about your comic background. 12 years. So you said you're at Alias Comics?
Correct. And at that time, I was still just doing an internship. I would go hang out. I would do some computer stuff for some of the books. They were producing, I think it was like 8 different series for Zondervan. And they had all these different books that were being published through Zondervan. And they had one book that was originally written in Korean. And I had to go in and basically remove all the Korean letters so they could just redo it in American. That kind of got my Photoshop skills up there. And just, I'd taken Photoshop in art college, but I totally forgot how to use it. And so that kind of got me back, using Photoshop, which I do use a lot now, which is great. So, and then after that, I did a 3-issue miniseries with a company called Awesome Comics. Not awesome like Rob Liefeld's company he did or comic. It was OSSM.
Okay.
And so he did a few different books. I met a writer, Seek Donnelly, at a convention. And this is one of the times, they saw Mike's work and they're like, oh, wow, that's really good. And they thought I was Mike because his artwork was close to me. So they're like, hey, man, this is great stuff. And so it was kind of funny. And Mike was like, yeah, you probably can't afford me, but you should check out Eric. He's good too. So that's how I landed that gig. And it was a 3-issue series. It was, in my wheelhouse, it was angels. It was basically like taking the biblical story, but flipping it on its head, where you have Lucifer is the good angel and Michael is the one that revolted from heaven. And then Lucifer actually prevents Adam and Eve from eating the apple. And then Eden is good. And, humans are still good. And they're actually able to wield their spirits in a way, almost like a Green Lantern, where they can, make things. But you have this one character who makes a weapon, which had never been done before. And that's the character Enoch, who's the main character. And so he goes on this quest, and basically Michael returns to destroy Eden, and he leads this army, or like the battle against this demon horde. So very fun book, really cool.
So you live in San Diego. You've been around the comic industry a little bit. You've been doing this for 12 years. You've got to have at least one crazy comic industry story to share.
The one I could think of, I did the Wildstorm talent search way back. They were having a talent search, and they had these sequential pages. They put the script out there, and then you draw it, and then you hand it in. Well, I did it, and it had Grifter, it had Mr. Majestic, it had Zealot, and they're like fighting these, cyborg dudes. And so I was like, this is it. This is my chance. I'm going to make it, So I did the pages, and basically you would go to, I think it was Wizard World in LA, and hand them in. So I'm like, okay, that's not too far. It's 2 hours away. So I drove up there on a Saturday, handed in the pages, and literally I didn't buy a pass. I said, hey, I'm dropping this off for the talent search. I'm not staying. If I could just go in and drop it off. And they're like, yeah, which is amazing, because like knowing comic conventions now, that probably never would have happened today. So I go in, I drop it off, I leave. Sunday morning, I get a call from Scott Dunbier, who's I think he was like an editor at the time. And here's this message on my machine. Hey, Eric, can you come, show us your samples? Let's do a portfolio review. I'm like, okay. And it's like, probably 1 o'clock. And I was like, I can't make it up there in time, like drive 2 hours and like make it to do this thing. And again, I didn't have a pass to the Comic-Con. So I was like, I was like, I can't do anything, you know, I'm stuck. So I found out I was in the top 5, I think, of people that they were, you know, interviewing. So I was like, okay, I made it to the top 5. That's pretty cool. But that was it, you know. And I think the guy that ended up winning the talent search was a guy I see him at conventions now and everything, and I'm like, hey man, good job. But yeah, so that's my crazy story. Almost made it into Wildstorm.
There you go.
You know,
one of your favorite heroes.
Yeah. Yep. So the pages are still on my DeviantArt page. If you go onto my DeviantArt, if you go to my website, ericninaltowskiart.com, there's a gallery, you know, heading. If you click on that, I'll take you right to my DeviantArt, and you can check out some pages I've done and things like that.
So let's talk the future here. So what are your hopes for this book?
At this point, I want to be able to work on this book till Kingdom Come. I want to just, you know, continue with the story, have it keep going, build on the characters, you know, kind of like the early Image books, have offshoots, do other titles. But again, just like keep focused on this story, you know, I don't want to have 5 different offshoots, but, you know, maybe 1 or 2, tell some background stories of other characters. Currently, right now, after the second book, which would complete the first story arc, I could get into this other team. They're called the XI Hunters, and they're basically the government group that's tasked with hunting down these Hellborn and Highborn. And they have ties to the main character's father, who is Noble, Robert Noble. He's the guy running down the alleyway in the beginning. That's his background, is the military. That's where he first had his near-death experience. That's when he got his powers. And so now they're trying to make more of him to implement into our military system. So that kind of gets into a whole another thing, and his relationships with other guys. And he knows somebody in the XI Hunters, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd love to do an XI Hunters offshoot. It's like a military group, guns and gear, you know, can't beat it. I love that stuff. So yeah, so that would be, you know, like around book 3, book 4. And, you know, I have another team that I could do, which would be implementing more Highborn, you know, and kind of like a Gen 13 where it's still mixed into all the world, but they're a different group and they could have their own book. So I have a lot of plans, you know, so as long as people enjoy it, like it, and keep, you know, buying the books, I can do this for a really long time. And that's my hope.
Do you got a YouTube channel?
I do. Yep. Eric Ninaltowski Art. I do live drawings and try to have more guests on there, but yeah.
All right.
But I'd like to, you know, have a platform where creators can come, just hang out, draw. We can just talk, you know, chat about their books, chat about the 90s books they love, talk about their inspirations.
So this has legs beyond the current book that you're working on.
Correct.
How many total pages are in this book?
The first one would be 48.
48. So you're almost halfway through. Are you doing the lettering as well?
No, so the pages that are on the campaign, I did letter, but I told Eric Weathers if I hit 15K that I'd be hiring him. So he's going to be my letterer.
When do you see this campaign ending?
The original fulfillment date would be August, and I purposely put it back. Maybe I could have been done in June, and so I put it back a month just to give myself a cushion. I didn't want to be late. You know, probably end of June. You know, depending. I'm going to have different, like I mentioned, the cards, the trading cards, and the T-shirts. So I'll put that on, you know, before it closes. And then when I'm ready to go to print, I'll close it off. So I'm, you know, it's probably going to be the end of June, you know, early August, the latest.
Well, I commend you on your project. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
One thing that crossed my mind was, you know, we're talking about just the fans, and I think there's a lot of people out there who've are like given up on comics, and they just haven't heard about all this new stuff coming in. So, you know, I hope there's a lot more people out there that just haven't been hooked by either Comicsgate or just, you know, these new indie books. And hopefully we see a lot more people, you know, coming on board. Because again, so many people have been disenfranchised with Marvel and DC for the longest time. And now it's like they've either given up or they're just, you know, they're not even looking anymore. So hopefully by doing this, getting out there on different channels, on different platforms, you know, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, Twitter, you know, we can kind of get these people in that have just been given up on comics, you know.
Well, I think the more we can reach out into the mainstream, we can get a lot of those lapsed fans or people that are naturally interested back. Kind of like EVS did with the whole Star Wars thing. He brought a lot of people that used to buy comics back into, because, you know, comic book people tend to be sci-fi, fantasy oriented.
Right.
So, they've gone other places. We just need to pull them back. We're going to do that through games, through science fiction, through movies, through what I'm doing with my projects is I'm releasing my first project as an audiobook because there's a whole big market out there, and it's growing at 30% plus per year.
Wow.
So by reaching into that group, I'm going to pull those people, and then they're going to wonder what else I'm doing, and then hopefully it'll support my Indiegogo campaign that I'll come out with later this year too. So I think you're right. The more we do that, the more we pull people in. I think it'll slowly get bigger, but it's going to be a fight. What's been going on so far is just that it's been getting smaller and smaller because you're just continuing to focus on a market that's aging and or people tapping out because they don't like the product. And if we're making good stuff, we're letting people know that we're out there, specifically you're out there, then I think that we're going to lead those people back to comics, and then they're going to introduce their kids to it as well. I'm going to button this up, I think, unless you have anything more that you want to add. And we certainly encourage everybody to go to Eric's channel and subscribe, especially if you're somebody that likes art, because I think he has a fantastic, exciting style. Hopefully we'll get together sometime in the near future. And I immediately saw your stuff. I thought, oh, Jesus, looks like I just got done rereading the Divine Right, Max Faraday. So that's really exciting. I think your artwork is fantastic. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. And hopefully we'll see you around.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.